I'm actually so excited to share this recipe with you guys. If there was ever a recipe that I make over and over and over again, and it's my go-to recipe for when we have company and I just need something easy that absolutely everyone loves, this is the recipe. Today we're making easy grilled lemon chicken. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes chicken, if it's too thick, it's dry and just doesn't have any flavor, almost a gamey flavor. And so I love this recipe because it's so crazy flavorful. And so I'm just gonna take you guys through it today and show you exactly how I do it. There's a couple of tricks with this recipe, so I just wanna show you, but it couldn't be more easy. So what you're gonna need today are 4 lemons and a half a cup of olive oil, some garlic cloves, Dijon mustard, and then you're gonna need some fresh rosemary, kosher salt and pepper, and then some chicken breast. And that's it. And you'll wanna grab a really sharp knife and then a freezer size gallon bag. So to get us going today, we are gonna start with this plastic bag. So what I always do is I open it like this. And then that way, when you go to try to seal it, you don't have anything messy at the top for that zipper piece. And that's one of my tricks with using these bags is you always wanna fold back that top. So it just makes closing it up that much easier. So we're gonna be mixing our little marinade in this bag. So we're gonna start with a half a cup of extra virgin olive oil. And we're just gonna pour that right in the bag. And then I'm gonna set this off to the side. And what you're gonna need next are 4 garlic cloves. Now try to pick the bigger ones. And if you happen to have smaller ones, then pick 2. So you'll end up with 5. But if you have 4 large garlic cloves, I have showed you guys this before. I use the smash method, and literally the peels come right off. And so I just put it down on the cutting board, use both hands, and I press until I hear it or feel that it smashes. And then the garlic clove comes right off of there. And we just keep doing that. And sometimes it even lifts off. Did you guys see that? That's how simple it is. There we go. And it will peel off here. So we've got 4 there. That one's kind of small, so I'm gonna use this 5th one. And so I'm just gonna take the knife, and I've showed you guys this method before. It's a rocking method when you use a knife. And so I like to use my big chef's knife. And so you just hold it with your left hand at the base, and then you just lift in the back. And you go back and forth in kind of this fan pattern to chop and mince this up super finely. And then you just scrape it together again when it spreads apart, and you keep going. And the nice thing is you can do this and you can talk to people who are in the kitchen with you. You don't have to worry about cutting your fingers because you have complete control of it with that left hand right there on the tip of it and our right hand on the base. And of course, that's if you're right-handed. So if you are left-handed, just switch it the other way. So we are just finely mincing this. Remember, I'm just going in a fan shape here, and then scrape it all back into the center. There you go. And just make sure that your knife is extra sharp. We've talked about that before. That's super important. And then you just gather it up on your knife and put it into the bag here. So we have our half a cup of olive oil in there, and then we've chopped up 4 large garlic cloves. And again, if they're smaller, your cloves, go ahead and add a 5th one in. It adds such amazing flavor. All right. And then the next thing to our marinade, set that off to the side. We'll need that a little bit later. The next thing you're gonna need is Dijon mustard. Usually I have Grey Poupon in the house, but today this is all I had. Actually, it's a brand new one, so let me open it. And you're gonna need a tablespoon. Now you guys feel free to grab an actual tablespoon and measure. I just eyeball it. It's usually one big clump. And just add that to your bag. So is 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. There we go, set that off to the side. And then the next ingredient is going to be fresh rosemary. You guys know how much I love fresh herbs in the kitchen. One of my all-time favorite tips, secrets to amazing meals. I absolutely love, love, love rosemary. And it's one of the easiest herbs to work with because you literally just grab it at the top. And I'll bring my bag over here. And you just take your pincher fingers at the top and pull down. And it comes right off the stalk just by pulling on it. So there's my big handful. And you know, for this recipe, I always say about a tablespoon, but honestly, I try to put in as much as I can. And I'll even go up to maybe 1/4 of a cup. I don't even bother chopping it or anything. I just make sure that it comes off of that stalk. It's not clumped together, it's all in little pieces. And you just add that in. There we go. Oh, and it smells so amazing. And just a trick for you guys is when you are working with herbs, use your fingers, because if you rub against the herb, the oils in the herbs will release. And I just think it's, you know, we talk about this, we've talked about it before, just the whole sensory side of cooking. You know, you use your sight and your smell and your taste, and that sense of smell. I think people remember that amazing smell of fresh herbs, in this case rosemary, and it literally just puts you in such a good mood for that smell, and you don't mind it on your hands at all, and it just smells absolutely wonderful. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be adding is kosher salt. So you guys know I keep this in a big container here because I love kosher salt. And I'm going to go ahead and measure this out. And I know you guys are going to think this is a lot, but it's what you need. Make sure it is kosher salt though. Super, super important not to use iodized salt. It will be too sharp and way too salty if you use that, but just pick up a regular brand. This one probably is Morton's kosher salts, and you're just going to add a tablespoon to your marinade mixture, and then you're going to add about a teaspoon of black pepper. So add that in there. Set that off to the side. And now where the money is with this recipe, and that's using lots and lots of lemons. So today I have 4 lemons laid out. We're gonna set one of these lemons off to the side. We're gonna use that at the end of the dish. So I'll just set that there. There's a garlic clove. And so we have 3. And I have a squeezer. You don't have to use a squeezer at all. It just makes it a little bit easier. But what I do is just cut these fresh lemons in half. You know, this is one of those recipes where I would suggest that you make it just like I describe it. Try not to use bottled lemon juice or dried rosemary. It doesn't turn out the same. You will love, love, love this if you just stick with the fresh side of things. It makes all the difference in the world. It's just so yummy. I get so excited about this recipe every time I make it. So I'm just gonna squeeze each of these halves into the bag, and I go down, you know, fairly deep into the bag, because otherwise, as you guys know, if you've ever squeezed fresh lemons, it comes splattering back at you. I think on our shrimp taco recipe that we had online. I squirted Jessica Eves in the eye as I was doing this. I think I was squeezing limes maybe for that one. And so just get it deep into the bag so you're not squeezing it all over yourself. There we go. And you get to use a little bit of muscle here as we do this and squeeze that. And you know, typically each lemon will yield a tablespoon of juice. And so that's just a good rule of thumb to go by. And we are using 3 right now. We'll need that 4th later on, like I mentioned. Oh, you guys, this smells so good. You can already smell the rosemary and the garlic in there. And then to add this punch of lemon, is phenomenal. And we just have 1 more half to go. Squeeze that up. All right, so we are done with this piece. Put this off in my sink. Put these away. Wipe my hands down. Okay, so I just grab the bag like this, and I use my right hand and just squish it around, and you're basically just mixing it together. There we go, and it's a really pretty, like kind of soft mustardy color, you guys. And just take a minute to smell how good it smells. It's really how you're gonna know how good this recipe is, just by the smell alone. So now I want you to grab 6 chicken breasts. So I have mine over here in the sink that I'm gonna pull out. And I always try to tell you guys, you know, which brands I'm using. Like I've told you many and many of times, we do not get paid for advertising what we use in these share classes. These are strictly for sharing because we just think it's so important in life to help people out and share with them. I'm using a Costco brand of chicken. You can use whatever kind you like. So I'm just gonna cut them out of here really quick. My cutting board here. I'm just cutting off the top. Oops, didn't quite get that one. And like I said, make sure you're using a super sharp knife. That really helps with this. Okay, so there's 2 of them in each pack. I'm using a total 6. What I like to do is I take them out of the wrapping here is I like to rinse them off. Now I have heard of people not rinsing their meats or proteins. I'm personally not a fan of that. They've been sitting in that plastic for a while, and I like to kind of rinse that off because if there is any flavor that gets added. And so that's our 4th right there, and then we have our last one here that I'll get out of here. There's number 5, and here's number 6. You guys work with a pretty large cutting board as you're doing this, and I'm just gonna set this off to the side or marinade there so you guys can see what I'm doing. Put my sink. All right. Okay, so make sure you have a really large cutting board when you're working with these. And here is a major tip that I have for you. When you're dealing with chicken breasts, and this particular recipe, I like to work with almost frozen chicken, believe it or not. And I'll show you why. Do you see how thick this chicken breast is? And I mentioned at the beginning how chicken can dry out. Well, I want to teach you a way that you're going to have the most moist chicken you've ever had, and you're just going to fall in love with it. And so what we're going to do is slice this up, and we're going to slice it into thirds. And so it's going to be pretty thin. Actually, I may even do 4ths because this one's pretty thick. And we are doing about a 1/4 of an inch cutlet here, and I will show you. And you know, the reason why I tell you to use it's slightly frozen, And so I just put it in water in my sink typically for about 15-20 minutes, and you can make these super thin slices of chicken. And so I would say they're about 1/4 of an inch, and that's what we're aiming for when you slice them up, just like this. And so when it's frozen, it just makes cutting it all the more easy, because you guys know that if you've ever tried to cut up chicken when it's softened and not frozen, then it's super slippery and can be tricky to work with. And so this one is still frozen. I'm gonna try to muscle it here. And you'll just have to judge it based on, you know, how thick each of your chicken breasts is. So this one, I'm just going to level it out. So this one's gonna be smaller, you're gonna see. And that's okay, these smaller pieces actually end up being the best and most flavorful. So you're just gonna eyeball this, and you're gonna thinly slice this. And again, I would aim for about 1/4 of an inch. There we go, and I'll just show you what that looks like. There we go, so you guys can get a really good idea. So, you know, it's thicker than obviously paper, but really super thin. And you're just gonna add that to your bag. And again, you know, when we opened it at the top, at the start of this recipe, open that bag up, this is one of the reasons. And so you don't have to have dirty fingers with your chicken and messing with that. You know, when you're working with meats, it's just super important to be sanitary and not to cross-contaminate anything. And again, you guys can see that this is kind of frozen, still kind of stuck together. And I'll see if I can muscle it. If I can't, I think I'm just gonna slice it straight away off of here. Or I'll give it a minute and move on to these. Okay, so I just set it up right again, and I'll just keep repeating myself so you guys understand. I mean, dealing with slightly frozen chicken makes slicing it so simple. And it's not gonna slip away because it can be a little slimy and slippery. And don't worry if you have a small piece down here, just do the same thing with the smaller pieces. And just thinly slice the whole thing up. And you guys know I'm a big fan of showing you the process from start to finish. You know, a lot of these cooking shows that you see on TV edit, and so you don't get the full effect of the messiness or what's really involved with everything. So I always like to show you all of it here. All right, so we're down to these two here, and then our last one. So we'll just keep going with this. But I think you guys will fall in love with this recipe just like I do, and I think it'll be your go-to recipe, just like it is for me. I don't think there's been one single person that has not fallen in love with this recipe who's tried it. So I really hope you guys love it. It's funny, it's so hard for me sometimes to pick what to have on the share classes, because I have a lot of recipes that I want to share with you, but there's too many. And so to narrow it down for me is always hard. But I thought, you know, it's the start of summer. We're coming up out of, you know, COVID restrictions. And I think everyone's getting excited about being outside and having family and friends over. And I thought this would just be a perfect one to share with you guys. So we're down to our final two. Let me see if I can pull these apart. And you guys, don't worry if you can't. If it's that frozen, just go ahead and do both together, and it still works. And don't get caught up on how the chicken, if it doesn't slice perfectly. You know, if you get these smaller ones, don't worry about that, because they taste amazing, soaking in all that lemon flavor and garlic. And just make sure you're working with a super sharp knife. And I'm just going to keep my head down here for a second so I don't slip. There we go. This one is definitely a little thicker than before. Here's some smaller pieces. And I'll just slice those up. And keep going, and we're on the tail end here. This one's really, really frozen. There we go. Oops. And just be careful on this last one, because that's the one that can kind of slip away from you here. There we go. And that one's thin. And always just check that thickness. Try to make it super consistent. That would be another trick to this, is when you're dealing with proteins, especially we're going to be grilling these today, you want them all the same thickness. And that's just because it'll make your life so much easier in trying to time everything to make sure it's all cooked. And if they're not all uniform, then you're going to have some that are undercooked and some that aren't. So we take all of these thin sliced chicken breasts and shove them into our bag here. And before I touch any other sides of this bag, I am going to go wash my hands, and I'll be back in just a second. And, you know, I'll just make mention, as you guys, I'm trying to wash my hands here, is that it's really important, you know, when we've done safety training with cooking, you know, one of the first things they teach you is safety with food handling and how you wash your hands. And it's super important that you wash in between your fingers and around every last nook and cranny under your nails. And then that way we're not touching this raw chicken and then going and touching anything else. I'm done with my knife. I'm done with this cutting board. I've cleaned my hands. And now, because I had that top folded back, I unfolded it. And then we just zip up the bag. Just like this. And I always double check, because you know, if you've ever shaken a Ziploc bag that's not tightly sealed, you guys know what happens. And so now we're just going to shake. Kind of fun. And we're just trying to get that marinade. So I always go upside down, actually. There we go. And again, you know, I'll just keep repeating myself. It's slightly frozen chicken. It's not completely frozen. I just put it in some water in my sink for about 20 minutes. And then you can leave this out on your counter, because we're going to be wanting it to come down on temperature so it's not quite so cold when it hits the grill. And you're going to let it sit in this marinade, gosh, for probably 30 minutes or so. Not too long at all. So like I said, it is that easy. You can go an hour if you want. I wouldn't do much longer. And I'll tell you why, is because we're using lemon juice, and lemon juice actually cooks proteins. And so we don't want to do that to our chicken. So I just leave it out on my counter. And so I'll set it down. And then after about 20 minutes or so, I'll flip it over and shake it again and just make sure it's all nicely coated. So what I'm going to do now is just clean up all this and wait that half an hour that I told you guys about, 45 minutes. And then I will be back and we will finish up this recipe, and I'll show you the final stages. Okay, you guys, we are back. It's a little chilly, windy outside, but we want to finish up this recipe. So what you're going to need to do is use your grill and preheat it on a medium-high heat, you know, for at least 10 minutes or so, so it's nice and hot. And then grab that chicken that we have in the bag, and also grab some kind of platter, a along with some tongs so we can flip our chicken. And then also you are gonna want to oil up your grill really well. You can use spray, or I like to use olive oil. I've gotten a brush and some olive oil, and you can use spray as well, but you want to preheat your grill, and then on a medium-high heat, I would say, and then I'm just gonna brush my grill with some olive oil, and that will just prevent your chicken from sticking. So I like to go across the whole grill. And then just set that off to the side. And we are just gonna lay this out onto the grill. So lay them flat out onto the grill. There we go, so I'll just take a second. Alright, so we're going to do this in 2 batches today. I've spread this out, as you guys can see, 3 minutes on each side, and that's it. It's actually 3 minutes on the first side, then you're going to flip it, and then we'll cook it for 2 minutes after that. So it's super simple, literally 5 to 6 minutes on the grill, and we'll take it off and go ahead and get some type of platter so it's ready to go, and grab that lemon that we didn't use earlier and slice that in half. And so we're just waiting for our chicken. Those 3 minutes is all we're waiting for. So we'll just take a look. Oh, beautiful. Let me just show you that side. You can see the grill marks, so we're just going to flip it to the other side. It's gorgeous. Let me show you that. Isn't that amazing? Flip that to the other side. And you know, that's the beauty of making the slices so thin, is that it cooks so quickly. And you know, putting some oil on the grill before you get started is a huge help. That way that chicken doesn't stick at all. It'll flip literally right over. All of our pieces have been flipped over, and so we're just going to close the lid, and we'll wait 2 more minutes. And so it's a little windy, so hopefully you guys can still hear me. You know, I wanted to just talk about one of our all-time favorite things about summer. And you know, we live in Colorado. For those of you who are out of state, you should definitely come to Colorado in the summer. One of our all-time favorite things to do is eat outside in the summertime. We love eating outside. We'll eat breakfast out here, lunch, dinner, every meal that we can during the summer. We're so fortunate in Colorado not to have bugs, and it's always just such a treat to be outside. We've loved it since our kids were little, and now that they're grown up, they still love to eat outside. And it's just, there's something special about having a meal outside where you're gathered with your friends and family. You're out in nature, and it just is this great bonding opportunity, and thoroughly enjoyable and so much fun. And so I hope that you're inspired by this recipe, and that you will grab your friends this summer and eat outside with them. Grill up some of this easy grilled chicken. Like I said, we're waiting this 2 minutes, and I bet that 2 minutes is up, so we'll take a look. Okay, and so I checked the grill marks on the other side, and they weren't quite set yet, so I closed the lid quickly, and we'll just let that go for just another minute here. But highly encourage you that no matter what outdoor space you have, whether it's a park across the street or you have an outdoor patio, is to grab your family and friends and set a table outside and go enjoy a meal outside. Put on some music and just enjoy our beautiful Colorado weather and enjoy this amazing, delicious lemon chicken. You can serve it alongside just about anything. You can grill up some vegetables, that's perfect with it. You can make some of that no-knead bread that we talked about at one of our other share classes, and it just makes for the most fantastic outdoor meal to have. So our 2 minutes now should be up. Yep, and so we have these great grill marks here. And we're just going to layer this out onto a platter. And remember I told you guys about those little pieces? Those are going to be the best. And you guys are going to discover that this is the most moist, delicious chicken you've ever had. Right, we're almost done here. So let me just show you guys what this looks like. It's absolutely beautiful. And you can slice up another lemon. And then that lemon that we didn't use at the beginning, you just take it and squeeze it over the top. And it just adds another punch of lemon. You could sprinkle on even just a dash of kosher salt as well. I'm gonna find one of these small pieces and just give it a shot. Oh, you guys, all-time favorite recipe. It's the best chicken that I think you'll ever have. It's so good. It's great as leftovers, my kids. You know, if you have athletes out there, they always are looking for some kind of protein. They love this cold, straight out of the fridge. It'll last for a few days, so I always make up this big batch. And so I'm just gonna finish up grilling the second half. I hope you guys all give this a shot. I hope you guys have a terrific summer, and I will plan to see you guys this fall with more share classes. Thanks for joining today. I'm Elayne, and go share life, love, and food with all your family and friends.